On December 8, 1941, at the Imperial Naval Headquarters in Tokyo, Admiral Asami Nagano perused the reports from Pearl Harbor with a sense of satisfaction. The destruction was substantial. 8 American battleships damaged or sunk, nearly 200 aircraft destroyed, and over 24,000 Americans killed. The U.S. Pacific Fleet lay crippled. However, what Nagano and his colleagues could not have anticipated was the impending transformation of America's reserve fleets into a formidable naval force. Within 2 years, American shipyards would achieve production rates that Japanese naval strategists had considered unattainable. The James River Reserve Fleet near Fort Eustis, Virginia, served as one of several locations where World War I-era vessels lay in various stages of decay. Although the exact number is uncertain, it likely exceeded 100 ships. These vessels were maintained at a minimal level through the 1930s due to decreasing congressional funding. They lingered in bureaucratic limbo, too costly to scrap and too valuable to discard entirely, yet deemed obsolete. The morning of December 8 marked a turning point for these maritime graveyards. Workers from Norfolk Naval Shipyard and civilian contractors quickly descended upon the anchorage to reactivate the vessels. Their orders were straightforward but daunting. Return every possible ship to service immediately. Initial inspections uncovered significant obstacles such as flooded engine rooms, corroded machinery, and even bird nests in ventilation shafts. Yet within weeks, ships began moving under their own power once more. The USS Bridgeport, originally a German liner seized in 1917, was among the first to be reactivated. Black smoke poured from its stacks, marking the return of life after over a decade of dormancy. By spring 1942, dozens of vessels had been pulled out of reserve status and refurbished for service. While these weren't glamorous warships, they were essential auxiliary vessels such as repair ships, tankers, cargo vessels, and transports that provided critical support when America desperately needed every available hull. In Tokyo, the Imperial Japanese Navy's intelligence organization, whose precise size is debated but undoubtedly understaffed, endeavored to evaluate American naval capabilities before the war. Their pre-war assessments indicated that America might produce around 500,000 tons of naval vessels annually, and perhaps up to 2 million tons of merchant shipping under maximum effort conditions. The approach seemed sound. Analysts counted American shipbuilding waves, calculated steel production levels, and assessed labor availability. Reports from attachés stationed in Washington highlighted inefficiencies, labor strife, racial tensions, and peacetime complacency within the U.S. One report noted that American shipyards were operating far below their full potential capacity, with workers reluctant to work overtime. While these observations accurately depicted peacetime conditions, they fundamentally misunderstood America's latent industrial capabilities. Japanese intelligence analysts observed labor disputes, but failed to foresee union agreements that would allow uninterrupted production during wartime. They noticed racial segregation, but did not anticipate how the war would create new opportunities for minorities in defense industries, even if limited. When some analysts suggested higher American capacity estimates, their reports were frequently dismissed. The prevailing strategic doctrine of a decisive battle concept assumed the conflict would be resolved within a year through a climactic naval engagement. Consequently, pre-war assessments of American industrial output appeared inconsequential, since the war's outcome was expected to be decided before new ships could be constructed. By 1943, however, America had produced over 19 million tons of shipping, nearly 10 times what Japanese planners thought possible. This was not merely an intelligence failure, but a catastrophic underestimation of America's capacity for rapid mobilization and industrial transformation. The United States Maritime Commission underwent a dramatic shift from managing the decline of merchant marine fleets during the New Deal era to becoming the orchestrator of unprecedented shipbuilding efforts. Admiral Emery S. Land, who chaired the commission, understood both engineering and bureaucratic challenges. His directive was straightforward: build ships faster than they could be sunk. The commission's wartime powers enabled it to seize control of shipyards, allocate resources, manage labor, and oversee the entire production network. This coordination went largely unnoticed by Japanese intelligence, which was primarily tracking ship counts, making this invisible effort just as crucial as the ships themselves. The Liberty ship program, inspired by a British design for basic cargo vessels, set the standard for mass production. The design deliberately used outdated technology such as reciprocating engines instead of modern turbines and straight lines, rather than intricate curves to facilitate quick construction by less experienced workers. The first Liberty ship, SS Patrick Henry, launched on September 27, 1941, took 244 days to complete. By early 1942, the build time had dropped below 100 days, and by late 1942, some yards were finishing ships in under 50 days as efficiency improved continuously. The Commission also tackled workforce development. Training programs rapidly transformed farmers into skilled seamen within weeks, while the Merchant Marine Academy condensed its curriculum from 4 years to 18 months. By war's end, over 250,000 new mariners had been trained, creating a merchant fleet larger than Japan's entire maritime workforce from scratch. Henry J. Kaiser, despite having no prior maritime experience, entered shipbuilding with innovative ideas borrowed from dam construction. His method was straightforward: breaking down complex projects into simpler tasks, maximizing concurrent work processes, and investing in workers. At his Richmond, California yards, which would eventually house 55 shipways across 4 separate facilities, Kaiser introduced assembly line shipbuilding techniques. Unlike traditional methods where vessels were built sequentially, Kaiser's approach allowed for simultaneous construction of multiple ships. Kaiser constructed ships using an innovative simultaneous assembly method where different parts were built concurrently. For instance, while certain sections were being fabricated on-site, other areas dedicated to stern construction were operational elsewhere. Additionally, deck houses were prefabricated and fully outfitted in separate facilities before being installed into the main structure. The workforce underwent a dramatic transformation as well. In response to the scarcity of skilled shipbuilders, Kaiser adapted his approach rather than compromising on quality. Instead of training full-fledged shipbuilders, he developed specialized roles for workers. A welder might focus solely on mastering one type of joint and perform it flawlessly countless times. Kaiser also established extensive support systems to streamline operations and reduce inefficiencies. When housing became a limiting factor, he constructed entire cities for his workforce. Recognizing the need for healthcare services, Kaiser founded what would later become Kaiser Permanent. To address childcare issues, he created round-the-clock nurseries. Each hurdle was meticulously identified and eradicated. By mid-Minus 1942, Kaiser's shipyards were achieving unprecedented production rates. Although specific claims about record-breaking construction times should be approached with caution, the consistent output from his facilities was evident. The Richmond yards alone produced over 700 vessels throughout World War II. The Pearl Harbor attack presented a strategic paradox. Despite its tactical success, it included significant strategic misjudgments. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, who masterminded the operation, had a deeper understanding of America's industrial capabilities than his fellow leaders due to his time at Harvard and service in Washington, where he observed American manufacturing firsthand. His frequently cited forecast of a prolonged period of unrestrained activity for 6 months to a year encapsulated his perspective. Although the well-known, sleeping giant, quote often attributed to him is probably fictional, the initial triumph of the attack appeared to affirm Japan's strategic calculations, yet crucial details were overlooked or disregarded. Notably, the Pacific Fleet's aircraft carriers were not present at Pearl Harbor on that day. Equally significant was the fact that essential facilities, repair shops, fuel storage tanks, and submarine bases remained undamaged. These intact assets facilitated swift recovery efforts. Perhaps most importantly, the attack galvanized American public opinion instantly. Prior to the attack, the United States had been politically divided and isolationist. The assault unified Americans almost overnight, transforming their stance from reluctance to full engagement. Workers who might have resisted over time now embraced double shifts, while unions suspended strike activities. Women entered the workforce in unprecedented numbers, further boosting industrial output. Production statistics bore witness to this dramatic transformation. Ship deliveries accelerated throughout 1942, not just due to new shipyards coming online, but also because existing facilities became more efficient and workers gained greater expertise. This production surge was remarkable. By mid-1942, American shipyards were achieving results that Japanese planners had deemed impossible. Early Liberty ship completions increased steadily. 5 in January, 14 in March, 33 in June, and 67 in September. The peak was reached in October 1943 when an astounding 106 Liberty ships were completed, more than 3 per day. Japanese intelligence found it challenging to comprehend these figures. Neutral observers noted the appearance of hundreds of new American ships in Atlantic harbors, prompting Japanese analysts to offer various interpretations. They speculated that the Americans were counting vessels multiple times, or incorporating inland waterway craft into their counts, or outright fabricating numbers. Any explanation seemed more plausible than accepting the reality at face value. Each Liberty ship required tremendous coordination and effort. Thousands of tons of steel had to be delivered in precise order. Engines from different manufacturers needed to arrive on schedule, and parts from hundreds of suppliers had to flow seamlessly without interruption. The organizational prowess behind this achievement was as remarkable as the ships themselves. Reactivated reserve fleet vessels also played a crucial role, providing essential support through repair ships that could restore damaged vessels quickly without lengthy trips to shipyards. Tankers extended operational ranges, while ammunition ships, despite their hazardous cargo, ensured a steady supply of ordnance needed by American firepower doctrine. Submarine perspectives. Japanese submarine commanders provided first-hand evidence of American expansion. Their war patrol reports, often dismissed as exaggerated by superiors, documented the rapid transformation of American naval power. Commander Kanashi Takakazu aboard Eminis-19 achieved remarkable success in September 1942, sinking the carrier USS Wasp. Subsequent patrols reported increasingly challenging conditions. Larger convoys, denser escort screens, and constant air patrols. By 1943, attacking American convoys had become nearly suicidal. The evolution of American anti-submarine warfare, fueled by industrial abundance, fundamentally altered the dynamics in the Pacific. Escort carriers, often converted from merchant vessels, offered air protection far offshore. Destroyer escorts, manufactured in vast numbers, persistently tracked down submarines. Improvements were constant for radar and sonar technologies. By the end of 1943, Japanese submarines had largely transitioned from offensive missions to supplying remote garrisons. The hunters found themselves as targets rather than pursuers, compelled to evade detection instead of seeking out prey. One commander lamented that it seemed the Americans were constructing a destroyer for every ton of rice in Japan. American shipyards epitomized efficient production methods. Kaiser shipyards stood as prime examples. The Richmond facility operated around the clock with both day and night shifts, ensuring continuous operations. Prefabrication techniques had reached an advanced level of sophistication. Major sections of ships were constructed separately before assembly. No individual section weighed more than 200 tons. Propeller shafts were installed in stern sections during construction. Deck houses arrived fully equipped with plumbing and electrical systems. These components were then put together on the shipways like intricate three-dimensional puzzles. The workforce included a significant number of women, reaching up to 30% in some yards, as well as minority groups. Despite ongoing discrimination and limited opportunities, these individuals had gained access to industrial jobs previously unavailable to them. Workers averaged less than 1 year of experience, yet managed to exceed pre-war productivity standards. Supporting infrastructure was also remarkable. Miles of railroad tracks transported materials, while powerful cranes moved heavy sections into place that traditional builders claimed were unmovable. Machine shops, foundries, and assembly areas worked in synchronized sequences. Strategic understanding varied among Japanese leaders, with recognition of impending defeat emerging at different intervals but following a similar trajectory. Following early victories, doubts gradually grew into the realization that mathematical odds were insurmountable. The loss in the Marianas in June 1944 was a critical moment. Known as the Battle of the Philippine Sea by American pilots and referred to as the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, it showcased overwhelming U.S. naval dominance. Task Force 58 arrived with an armada that included more carriers, battleships, and escorts than Japan's entire pre-war Imperial Navy had possessed. This battle crippled Japanese naval aviation, resulting in over 400 aircraft lost while shooting down fewer than 3 dozen American planes. Admiral Somu Toyoda, commander of the combined fleet, later admitted that after the Marianas' defeat, he understood that Japan was destined to lose the war. The Americans had constructed a fleet that Japan could not compete with, supplied by merchant fleets beyond Japan's sinking capabilities, and supported by an industry unmatched by Japanese manufacturing capacity. B-29 bombers flying from Marianas bases began appearing over Japan in late 1944, making American superiority evident to civilians. Although Japanese fighters struggled to reach the high altitudes where B-29s operated, they seldom managed successful interceptions of these missions. Each B-29 bomber symbolized American industrial might, complex, costly, and mass-produced, representing a triumph of shipbuilding evolution. As Liberty ships were rolling off assembly lines in large numbers, improvements continued to be implemented by the Maritime Commission. These modifications addressed the limitations of Liberty ships while retaining their production efficiency advantages. Enhancements included increased speed, structural integrity, and overall performance. A key upgrade was an increase in speed from 11 knots to a range of 15 to 17 knots for Victory ships, which allowed them to evade submarine attacks and significantly reduce travel times. Improved hull designs also addressed structural weaknesses that had previously caused some Liberty ships to develop cracks. The transition to Victory ship production highlighted American adaptability and industrial innovation. Shipbuilders transitioned from producing Liberty ships to Victory ships without encountering substantial delays. Employees swiftly adapted to new methods while sustaining their output levels. By mid-minus 1944, the construction pace of Victory vessels matched that of the earlier Liberty ships. Over 500 Victory ships were eventually manufactured, and many continued to serve long after World War II ended. This success confirmed that mass production did not compromise quality when properly overseen. The shipyard workforce underwent significant social transformation. Women took on roles previously deemed unsuitable for them, such as welding, riveting, and operating cranes. African Americans also found new opportunities in skilled positions despite ongoing discrimination. Additionally, the healthcare system established to keep workers healthy and productive paved the way for prepaid medical care. Childcare facilities operated around the clock to support working parents, and housing projects were quickly developed to accommodate the influx of workers. For instance, Vanport City near Portland grew rapidly, reaching a peak population of over 40,000 people almost instantaneously, making it Oregon's second-largest city overnight. These social initiatives were not acts of charity, but strategic investments aimed at enhancing productivity. Workers who received health care and child care could work more efficiently, while those living close to the shipyards saved time on commuting. Each challenge was meticulously identified and addressed, leading to continuous improvements in efficiency as workers gained experience and processes became more streamlined. Man-hours required per ship steadily decreased throughout this period. By late 1944, constructing a Liberty ship needed only about one-third of the labor hours required in early 1942. This reduction wasn't merely due to efficiency. It represented a fundamental transformation in how work was conducted. The numbers told the story of American success. By 1945, the arithmetic of victory became unmistakable. The Philippines campaign showcased America's capability to deploy overwhelming military power virtually anywhere in the Pacific. Fleets grew to consist of hundreds of vessels, supported by extensive logistical chains stretching across vast ocean expanses. At Iwo Jima, concentrated American firepower was unprecedented in history. The preparatory bombardment consumed more ammunition than many countries possessed altogether. In Okinawa, the assembled naval forces surpassed 1,400 ships, possibly the largest fleet concentration ever achieved. Japan's kamikaze strategy, a last-ditch effort to inflict intolerable losses through suicidal attacks, yielded tactical victories but strategic futility. While dozens of Allied ships were sunk and hundreds damaged, these losses were absorbed by America's industrial might without significant impact on operations. By summer 1945, the abundance with which American naval forces operated would have seemed unimaginable in 1941. Damaged vessels were swiftly repaired and returned to duty, while lost ones were promptly replaced. The mathematical reality of industrial superiority had become overwhelming. Although the atomic bombs that concluded the war drew significant attention, they obscured a fundamental truth. Japan was already defeated by conventional warfare driven by America's industrial capacity. The bombs hastened surrender but did not dictate defeat. This determination was reached in American shipyards. From December 1941 to August 1945, these facilities constructed over 5,000 merchant vessels, totaling more than 50 million deadweight tons. In comparison, Japan's output was negligible. The United States managed to build as many ships in a single month as Japan did in an entire year. This gap extended beyond mere volume. American shipyards continuously incorporated enhancements and innovations. As production increased, so did the quality control measures. Continuous improvements were maintained throughout mass production. This trifecta of quantity, quality, and ongoing advancements proved unbeatable. Admiral Land's Maritime Commission played a pivotal role in securing victory through logistics. Ships were being built at a faster rate than enemies could sink them. This was a triumph achieved through industrial efficiency, the ultimate calculation. Post-war interrogations exposed how Japanese officers gradually acknowledged their impending defeat. Initial victories appeared to justify their strategy, but each subsequent battle revealed an increasingly weaker Japan and a steadily stronger America. A senior officer provided a stark timeline. After Midway, they had lost the initiative. After Guadalcanal, momentum was slipping away. After the Marianas, they knew the war was lost. Following the Philippines, they awaited the inevitable end. And by Okinawa, they prayed for it to be over. The delay in recognizing the situation on the home fronts was inevitable despite initial hesitations. Even as cities were being destroyed by firebombing raids, naval bombardments, and submarine blockades, government propaganda continued to claim victory. By spring 1945, it became increasingly clear that Japan had lost the war, though many people refrained from acknowledging this fact openly. The refusal to accept reality led to countless unnecessary deaths. Persisting in resistance against impossible odds was not a strategic decision, but rather an act of denial. The dropping of atomic bombs provided a convenient rationale for surrender, one that American shipyards had already made inevitable. Lessons and legacies emerged from these events. Reactivating the reserve fleet and boosting shipbuilding activities showcased capabilities that went beyond conventional military planning. Democratic societies, when united, can achieve remarkable mobilizations unimagined by authoritarian regimes. Innovations in production techniques such as prefabrication, modular assembly, and workforce specialization had lasting impacts on global manufacturing processes. Social changes like women entering the industrial workforce, minorities taking skilled positions, and employer-provided health care permanently transformed American society. Japanese intelligence failures were more about how information was processed than about gathering it. Cultural assumptions and strategic doctrines created filters that prevented accurate assessments. They could count ships but failed to grasp the system behind their production. Similarly, they saw factories yet couldn't foresee their transformation. The contrast between Japan's tactical sophistication, experienced crews, and spiritual resolve versus America's industrial might, organizational prowess, and mathematical certainty was starkly evident. In contemporary warfare, manufacturing played a more significant role than bravery. Supply chains were more crucial than combat strategies, and numerical superiority outweighed morale. Ultimately, World War II's outcome demonstrates how democratic nations harnessed their industrial might through the reactivation of America's reserve fleet and the subsequent surge in production capacity across shipyards, steel mills, and training facilities nationwide. Victory was not solely achieved by grand naval confrontations, but also by the robust manufacturing capabilities that emerged during wartime. The old ships recommissioned in 1941 symbolized a broader transformation that would alter global power dynamics. Japanese strategists underestimated American society's potential for mobilization, mistaking peacetime inefficiencies for an inability to swiftly transition to wartime production levels. They focused on counting existing vessels without grasping the underlying industrial system capable of generating such ships at unprecedented rates. American industrialists like Henry Kaiser not only constructed numerous ships, but also pioneered innovative manufacturing techniques that would have a lasting impact worldwide. The societal shifts they initiated reshaped American society, while their organizational prowess defined modern logistics. Both triumph and tragedy characterized this human endeavor. American workers accomplished extraordinary feats of production. Japanese forces exhibited remarkable courage in the face of insurmountable odds, and civilians on both sides endured the costs of war. Ultimately, industrial capacity rather than military valor decided the conflict's outcome, underscoring enduring lessons about the critical role of manufacturing power. Industrial capacity remains a cornerstone of military strength. Production prowess continues to dictate strategic choices. Democratic nations still hold reserves that astonish those who focus solely on their peacetime inefficiencies. The vessels from the reserve fleet that re-entered service in 1941 carried more than cargo across the Pacific. They demonstrated that industrial democracy could swiftly and dramatically shift from a state of complacency to one of wartime supremacy, upending all preconceived notions about modern warfare's limitations. In shipyards throughout America, workers were not only constructing ships, but also building the foundation for a new world order, each vessel serving as a piece of this grand puzzle. The numbers did not lie. America could outproduce Japan in terms of both shipping and manpower. American factories churned out supplies faster than Japanese forces could destroy them. This was more than just victory. It marked a transformation in the nature of warfare itself. The era of decisive naval battles had come to an end, giving way to an age dominated by industrial capabilities. Japan learned this harsh lesson through its defeat. By August 1945, the empire that appeared invincible in December 1941 lay in ruins. It was not outmaneuvered tactically or outmatched in bravery. Rather, it succumbed to America's superior production capacity. The resurrection of the American reserve fleets unleashed an industrial tsunami, converting the Pacific War from a military struggle into a contest of manufacturing might. Ironically, Japan's post-war resurgence would rely on the very methods that had led to its downfall. Japanese shipyards adopted American mass production techniques, and the nation embraced large-scale industrialization. These war lessons turned Japan from a military powerhouse into an economic juggernaut, illustrating how the same industrial capabilities that secured wartime victories could also ensure peace. Ultimately, the tale of America's ghost fleet is not merely about ships. It is about the profound shift in warfare's essence brought about by industrial prowess. When an industrious nation aligns its capabilities with a unified national effort during times of total war, conventional military tactics are rendered obsolete. The reactivation of mothballed ships in 1941 not only contributed to the Allied victory, but also demonstrated that in the contemporary era, manufacturing output is just as crucial as combat operations on the battlefield. This period highlighted how the assembly line's efficiency became a determining factor alongside traditional military strategies, with industrial production ratios playing a critical role in deciding the outcome of conflicts.